know about the Scofield, the album, like John Scofield, like
Mule.
Mule. Did you? I don't know if you got it.
I saw that and I figured it was a Scofield thing, but I didn't get around to listening to it.
But to hear Warren play like that, like it's different than I've ever heard him do anything. He was like
they influenced each other.
It's amazing.
He brought John more into the rock and blues world, and John brought Warren more into the fusion type of world. His
sense of it still sounds like Warren, but he's going for different things.
Yeah,
and he's reacting. It was just beautiful to hear, because I mean I love Sco. I've been listening to I'm a big fan of John Scofield and Warren, and so to hear them together was fascinating. They hear the band still have that punch and that energy, but to just tell a different story. Well, right. I don't know how you describe it, but it was that's an amazing album.
We that album came out when Woody was still alive, before he passed away, but they didn't really tour it until afterwards.
Oh.
So John came on the road with us for a month.
Oh, wow.
And we did a ton of dates. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had playing music with him. And he was at Berkeley when I was at Berkeley. He was a senior and I was a freshman. And so he was like the cat on guitar. You know?
Yeah.
So we hung out in the back of the bus and just listened to music between gigs and talked about music. And on the gigs, you'll never meet a more musically gracious soul. I
only met him once, and believe it or not, he came out to hear and sit in with one of his, I guess, heroes or idols was Eddie Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And they played at the Falcon in Marlboro. And I remember sitting there. Eddie was my a very important teacher and player in my life. I spent a lot of time with Eddie Deal and loved hanging out with Eddie. But I sat at a table like this. It was me, and it was Gabe Schneider, and then John Scofield and Eddie Deal. And I told John just to let him know that he's one of the important things in my life. Like him as a player and as a musician, I has a profound influence on me. And he immediately, very politely said, he hadn't seen Eddie in decades, and he's just very politely said, I can't remember his exact words, but I really just would like to speak with Eddie, if that's okay. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. But like, he didn't want anything that
shut up, kid.
Yeah, it wasn't even. Yeah, and I'm 40 at the time, so but it was the way he said it just conveyed like he wanted to just and for me to sit there and hear him and Eddie talk was an incredible experience. And what you're saying about John, that I've only ever known, I've seen him play a million times with different things, and he's always that engaged. He only is who he is. And so when he's playing, it's the same intent and the same gracious, like you're talking about, and beautiful spirit, whether he's talking to somebody about music or playing on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an amazing thing to experience. And it was one of the best things I've ever had said to me. Like he didn't want, and I came with love for him. Like I just was trying to tell him like what he meant to me. He's like, cool. I really want to talk to Eddie. And it was it was great.
I have to try that sometime.
It was great.
I'm not going to even attempt to encapsulate who John is, but I can tell you what I've noticed is that when it comes to guitar,
mm-hmm.
he's acutely aware of everything that came before him.
Oh my God, yeah.
And whether it's blues or Hendrix or Segovia,
mm-hmm.
or we listened for a whole month. We just listened to George Benson, and John would melt every time the guy played.
Yeah, yeah. Who doesn't melt when they hear George Benson?
Yeah. But later on in his pop career, certain people tend to forget.
Yeah.
Like what a heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah. The best part about that is when he reminds you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him on the Grammys once with, I guess it was with Diana Krall.
Mm-hmm.
They did a duo, and he just played.
I saw that performance.
He played inside, but you remember the little cadenza at the end? He blew like this little thing at the end. They just played the last chord, and he just did like a little at the end.
Yeah.
And I had to pick up my tongue from the table. It was like incredible.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to hang out with both of those geniuses, and it's again another person who's not. He is who he is, and then when he plays, there's no styles. They just make music.
Yeah.
There's they don't have time or the energy or the inkling to talk to you about, like, if you want to talk about music, fine, they're all in. And that's how they play. And John, I find to be, what I'd say that him and George have deeply in common is the ability to improvise something. You hear it and you're like, boy, some of that had to be planned. And then you hear them do the same tune and it's completely different and just as magnificent. And then no matter what environment you're in, they just are reacting in real time and playing something just incredible.
Yeah.
So that must have been amazing to be on the road to hear, to support John from the keyboard and be able to play and intermingle with that. That must have been pretty wild.
It was amazing. And for the 2 years, literally, no joke, for the 2 years after that, I could go sit down at the piano and work on something he played that, I sort of felt like I was a dog being shown a card trick. And that just the whole idea of, they use this term playing outside, and I think we all know what that means, but then there are people like, Roswell, who just in the simple act of being himself was playing outside.
Yeah.
But Sco could go in and out of these typical bluesy or jazzier approaches to like playing something that stretched the boundaries of the harmonies, and still have it be lyrical, and still have it be relevant harmonically to the whole picture. And that's the stuff I would sit at my piano and just like, what the devil was he playing over that? Other than listening to records, I had never had that kind of close exposure to somebody who could just do that at will.
And it is at
every
will.
night.
Yeah.
And have it actually be not clever, not cute, but just dreamy and stretching the boundaries and stuff like that.
When I saw him play with Eddie, he was sitting in, and so it was all the tunes that Eddie called. So it was all standards, and I haven't heard. Sco did a record a while back with like now I'm forgetting the name.
Joe Lovano?
No. It was where it was more of them playing like sort of a standard kind of way, playing standards. I just can't remember what it was, but do you hear him?
He's doing duets with Dave now.
They're on the road now. I follow him.
Dave Holland.
Yeah, Dave Holland. Yes, another. He lives that way, right?
Yeah.
He, I think, is he in Ulster County? I think he's in Ulster County.
Yeah.
The stuff with just to hear him play standards and still have it be this, like, because Sco's made 30 plus albums and he's written hundreds of tunes, and I'm used to hearing him play in all of those different types of tunes. And then you hear him play standards and he brings the same mystery and approach of it's just when you discuss things as inside or outside, I don't think of that in terms of him. I just think of it as music or how he's playing.
Right.
He plays standards with the same command that he plays everything else. And I've heard him do both, and it's amazing to hear him do that.
In college, he confirmed this to me one of the nights that we were talking. He had an ES 175, and he played like Jim Hall. No West Montgomery octaves like all the other jazz guys were doing.
Yep.
No bluesy bends like Benson and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Just real inside and real focused and simple jazz soloing. And I asked him about that because like less than 2 years later, I heard Billy Cobham's album and this like, McLaughlin-esque solid body, torch lead guitar playing off the charts.
Yeah.
was a different guy
yeah.
than the guy I knew in college. And John confirmed that he was fixated on Jim Hall and wanted to be Jim Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked with his libation habits.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just really into that.
Yeah.
And he never showed all those other amazing cards that he was holding.
Yeah, and
like blues shredder, or jazz shredder.
Yeah, I don't even know if he would categorize it like that either. I think I don't. He's holding a lot of cards.
Yeah, well, when he plays a solid body, it's different than when he plays a semi-hollow or when he plays a hollow body. You know. And
I was fortunate enough at one point to take lessons with John Abercrombie.
Okay,
and he had the same love affair with Jim Hall. It's fascinating that those two who were so stylistic. It
was over my head in a way because it was so simple and diatonic.
That's the amazing
and
part about Jim Hall. It sounds
I
simple.
was like, this guy is really good and he can play anything, but I'm not sure I get it. And then like a year later, I heard this stuff he did with George Duke and Billy Cobham and Alphonso Johnson. And I was like, how can this be the same guy?
Yeah.
You know, that type of depth of arsenal is staggering to me.
It is staggering. Yeah. And he manages I've seen him, Sco in particular, play, I'd say maybe 20 concerts in my life. I've seen him everywhere from the Blue Note, usually in the city. I would see him mostly at those places. So he only comes to town once or twice a year, even though he lives in Westchester. But whenever I saw him tour behind certain albums, like he had the album Groove Elation, and that was like Idris Muhammad on drums, and then with Dennis Irwin on bass, and then they had it's like Howard Johnson's playing tuba. It's like a whole horn section and everything. And then I saw him do the Medeski, Martin, and Wood trio thing, where a go-go. And I heard him play all the songs from the album. And on the album, I was younger, and I was convinced, like, oh, he's going to do some of the sames. It was completely mind-boggling and all completely different.
Yeah.
His entire solo was something that occurred in the moment, and it was breathtaking to behold.
Did you ever hear the Uber Jam stuff?
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. And then he did an R&B thing.
Yeah. The Ray Charles album he did is incredible.
Yeah, Warren actually played on that.
How did I miss that?
Or he sang on it, actually.
Did he sing on that?
Yeah.
What tune did he do?
Night Train?
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and check that one out. I know I listened to it when it came out a bunch of times.
That and
Things Ain't What They Used to Be.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's no matter. That's the other thing with John is like no matter whose music he's playing, it still manages to sound like him, but it sounds like nobody else could possibly have done it that way.
And it transcends guitar ultimately,
without a doubt.
You know, and he talked about Miles because he got the Miles gig.
Yeah,
and he used to talk about how Miles would mess with his head. And one night he calls him into his room, says, "What's that shit you playing on my gig, man? What is that? Don't play that." And then John would go back to his room like dying 1,000 deaths. And then the very next night, Miles would call him to his room and be like, "Man, you sound like Bird." It's just like breaking his onions so heavily. Miles was pretty well known for that.
That's amazing.
John told me a whole bunch of really cool Miles stories. But my favorite Miles story is the one about Maurice White, the drummer from Earth, Wind and Fire.
Okay.
The lead singer from Earth, Wind and Fire, who was also the drummer in the Ramsey Lewis trio.
Oh, that really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Maurice White. And Miles always loved Earth, Wind and Fire. I think there's even a quote that says, "You can't go wrong listening to Earth, Wind and Fire." You know, and Maurice didn't know him, and his phone rang one day. And pardon my French. He goes, "Hello," and the voice goes, "Motherfucker, it's Miles."
Yeah, that was a
Which
term
I
of
can just see
endearment.
the guy like holding the phone. "Oh man, hey Miles, how you doing, man? What's up?"
Yeah.
Miles said, "Where'd you get them yellow pants you was wearing in Belgium?" And Maurice said, "Oh, I had somebody make them for me. So what's happening, Miles?" And Miles says, "Later, click."
Yeah.